Warning, this video contains opinions and jokes. Please help me out by liking the video, subscribing, and sharing. And please follow me on Twitter. I'm really lonely without you. I have a love-hate relationship with the Tales of series. There have been games I've loved, like the Symphonia games, Tales of Xillia, and Tales of Destiny 2. Then there have been games that I thought were okay, like Legendia and Vesperia, and some I didn't even finish, like Abyss and Berseria. I liked Tales of Destiny 2 because it was my first game. It looked cool on videos, so I picked it up. Symphonia was just a quick hit. It was really a lot of fun, and Symphonia's spiritual successor had monster raising, and even though I had to dual wield a Wiimote, the customization of the game kept it interesting. Legendia had amazing audio design, atmosphere, and music. I mean, just listen to this. Xillia had really cool character designs and a battle system that would let me combo enemies with 2 people. I was so excited to play Xillia that I played it through in Japanese before getting my English copy. Funny thing, when the English copy came out, I didn't want to play it anymore. However, after the 2016 release, Berseria couldn't keep me interested past the 20-hour mark. Whether that was due to bad writing, boredom, or my attention being moved elsewhere is not known, but not all Tales of games work for me. 25 years of Tales and I haven't played all of them, but for the uninitiated, I would tell them that these games are an action RPG hybrid and very, very anime. By that I mean fantasy kingdoms, monsters, improbably dressed characters, crystals, energy sources, and overcomplicated stories with lots of sci-fi mumbo-jumbo and an encyclopedia's worth of jargon and acronyms. One of the things that make or break a Tales game for me is pretty much 3 things. Is the story and characters refreshing enough to keep me interested? Is the battle system fun with good character progression to accompany it? Does the game have something that grabs me and makes me want to keep playing? With the most recent entry, Tales of Arise, it was a mixed bag as usual, but ultimately worked for the 50+ hours I played. I enjoyed the game. It filled the JRPG void that I've been trying to fill as of late. I was digging the heroic look of the main characters, the beautiful environments, that pink-haired chick with the gun, and some of the story. It's a tale about fighting against overwhelming oppression and subjugation. It's a darker turn for the series. The battle system had tons of problems, but despite some pain, the challenge, flashy attacks, and cool combos kept me interested until the end. The story hit hard and didn't fall into the typical anime JRPG cliches until the 3rd act of the game, and by then I was already invested enough to finish it. But there is an interesting divide that this new game has exposed, that of the average gamer and the core Tales of player. Now, these 2 groups are not directly at war or anything, but there is a different understanding of what makes a game great that varies between these 2 groups. The more mainstream group wants to experience a good game that is fun to play and a good story, world, and characters that suck them in and provide some escapism. They are generally open-minded to new games and play a variety of genres. On the other side, the core player knows exactly what they want. They know which genres they like. They play less varied games and have certain features that are make or break for them in the games they do play. They are heavily focused on combat, they are detail-oriented, and care about each and every detail. Now, unlike the casual player, they may be a bit jaded by years of Tales games, but they want them to succeed just like the mainline player, but with a different emphasis. The game developers don't really care about the difference between the hardcore and the casual audience because both groups buy the game equally. The amount of time a player spends on a game is not an indicator of which group they are in. Here's an example. I have a friend and we play a lot of the same games. He is more on the casual end and I am more of a core gamer. I am efficient and have a narrow-minded focus on completing the game well. He wanders around, gets lost, and leaves the game on when he falls asleep or goes to work. He may spend more time doing menial tasks in a game that I didn't care about. The amount of time playing a game doesn't seem to matter, it's the mentality that matters. The average player enjoyed Tales of Arise. There were generally good reviews and sales numbers. The game ramped up to 1 million copies very quickly. This game met its goal of getting new players into this just under the radar series. All seemed good for a solid RPG. Then out of Twitter and social media, new voices began to arise. That of the seasoned player, the elite, the diehard fans who have been playing since the beginning of the series. They emerged on social media and they had some professional complaining to do. They were quick to mention that this was the first Tales game to abandon the LMBS, or Linear Motion Battle System. The new combat design was more akin to Dark Souls with its challenging, glory through adversity style of play. A lot had been changed in the enemy design and general combat mechanics. I am not an elite Tales player at all, but I have friends that are, and I have a flair for the average action game. So I played through Tales of Arise armed with perspective I got from Twitter, and indeed noticed many issues about the combat in the game that the average player probably missed, ignored, or didn't bother to post on social media. 'Cause, some people don't complain on the internet like lunatics. In a good action game, your player will be fast, fluid, and strong with quick animations that allow for combos and animation canceling to allow crisp fluidity of movement and customization of combos. Cancels also allow evasive maneuvers to avoid enemy attacks on the fly, even when comboing. In a good action game, enemies will react when hit. They will stagger or have hit stun to allow for the dexterous to unleash their full combo potential. The enemy can be challenging or have lots of health, but in general there will be a fair push and pull between player and enemy, with the balance of power slightly weighted towards your player to provide a bit of power fantasy even as the game gets harder near the end. Unfortunately, Tales of Arise is lacking in a lot of good action game attributes. Your characters are a bit slow and do low damage. Your speed picks up with character progression and you can stack on the damage during windows of attack, but you will never feel like you have an advantage over the enemy unless you are leveled up to the gills. The lock-on doesn't always work, and your character tracking to enemies is clunky for certain animations. Most of your attacks are quick, but there are some arts that have really long animations. Chaining these arts can take far too long, which explains why to keep mobile I was using low-level arts most of the time, switching only to heavier attacks when I had a long enough window to do so. There is also no animation canceling. You will often be hitting a non-staggered enemy and want to evade the attack, but even if you see it coming, you will just have to take the hit because the animations are too long to dodge roll out of. The enemies are very unbalanced, especially bosses. The damage scaling for enemies and bosses is very high. It's not even fair sometimes. Add to that the main character Alphen, whose most powerful attacks cost HP to use, and you may receive a swift death. Your opponents also don't have hit stun. They shrug off every hit and give no indication that they are hurt. After a set number of attacks, the enemy will break, and then they can be comboed for a limited time. This means instead of going on the offensive in battles, you have to wait for the enemy to attack first, slowly waiting to unleash your own barrage. It's very counterintuitive to an action game. Also, with multiple enemies, this pain is multiplied too, and can feel like a wall of opponents. There are also special attacks and boost arts to help with this, but I feel that these gimmicks would be unnecessary if the battle system was better constructed or constructed differently. Bosses are tanky and there are lots of them. They are not fun due to the problems mentioned above, but mostly due to hyper armor. Bosses have a lot of health and there are lots of them. They also do a lot of damage. You can go from full HP to dead really fast. They have unstoppable attacks that can wipe your whole party, and they can repeat these as much as they want, especially at low HP thresholds. A Twitter video I found really exposed this flaw. You can boost break the bosses, and some can core break if they take enough damage. This is where you can stack your damage, but these moments give you almost no time, and the later bosses just get right back up almost immediately. Like any capable human being, I adjusted to much of this, finding workarounds. I waited for boost break opportunities and played the Dark Souls way, waiting for my enemies to attack and then breaking them, countering and doing combos. I waited until the wall of enemies dispersed enough where I could take down one and then chain combos to other enemies, and then break one enemy at a time, slowly taking all the enemies down. But the one thing that drove me nuts was the bad character AI. The characters will get hit by the easiest to dodge attacks, meaning you have to constantly revive your dumb dead teammates or heal them with 2 unnecessary recovery and CP healing items. There's even a boss later in the game that just freezes time and just kills you. It's really stupid. Seriously, this is some Star Ocean Ethereal Queen bullcrap. By the way, while I was working on this video, they announced a new Star Ocean. and it's not a mobile game, so heck yeah, I'm in. The bosses in Tales of Arise suffer from a theory that I call the Uncanny Valley of video game combat. Now this is just a theory, but I came up with it, and it goes as follows. If a game has an easy boss, then it is enjoyable, fun, and over quickly. You move on with the story, and we all like that. If a boss is hard, then we have to learn. We get to learn patterns, develop skill and strategy, and get to experience growth and the eventual satisfaction having overcome adversity. A lot of us like this too. But the Uncanny Valley occurs when we have a fight that is confusing or challenging, but not hard enough where we learn anything. We can spam potions, revival items just to get through it. We didn't have any fun, we didn't grow or anything, and we got an annoying obstacle out of our way. Unfortunately, this was one of the reasons that caused me to stop playing the Final Fantasy VII Remake about halfway through. However, hope recently came in the form of mods. I'm sorry PlayStation users, boo, buy a PC. The game has had several mods that fix the animation canceling and enemy stagger problems. Even the general gaming media is starting to pick up on it. I just wish the developers would have done their job so the players wouldn't have had to do it for them. Seriously, it only took like 3 days for one person on the internet to make a mod. These mods, like the responsiveness art cancel mod, are great and they allow fun crap like this. But what really helps with combat are the quicker animations. You still can't cancel out of regular attacks, but it's a good mod considering that one person made it. Despite my gripes with combat, I really did enjoy my time with Tales of Arise, with or without mods, mostly because the game had something to offer. I really got into the fishing and arena battles and got every achievement, because it was a game where I wanted to do things because it was fun. There is something nice about a smaller game where you can do everything in 65 hours or so, instead of spending hundreds of hours just to do half the quest or something. In conclusion, there will always be a divide between the passionate, elite hardcore players and the general audience. Going on YouTube and some Twitter feeds and seeing skilled players discuss the complex details of combat mechanics, and then a week later going on hashtag Tales of Arise and reading a bunch of other randoms talk about how pretty the game is and how much they like the pink-haired girl without any critical thinking whatsoever. You can cater to the kiddie pool, but it's the professional athletes that inspire new swimmers to try out the deep end. It's up to the developers to make a game accessible to the average player, but make sure the game has the proper mechanics so that the players who want to take it to the next level can do so without having to suffer mediocrity or dumbed down mechanics. The developers can take this game and its flaws and improve them, listening to their community and making a better product for all. Or they can just take the money and run, slumping into the familiar and the cliche, learning nothing, and repeating the same shameful acts. Just remember that your core fanbase has a good memory. Your move, Bandai Namco. Here's to you and your dumb new logo. This is Dan T with Twisted Banana Productions, signing off.